My name is Igor Akvovo. I am an instructional designer in OLAP. It is my privilege to introduce you today, Dr. Amy Billone. Dr. Amy Billone is a professor in the English department who has been teaching here since 2001. She earned her PhD in comparative literature at Princeton University. She taught 8 asynchronous classes during the last year, for which she received stellar evaluations. She is enjoying teaching 2 more asynchronous classes this fall. Today, she will share with us the strategies she has used in her asynchronous classes that create and increase community and engagement, all of which her students mentioned in their course evaluations as their favorite aspects of her teaching. Today, I will be watching the chat and Amy will be answering the questions at the end of the presentation. At this point, I would like to let Dr. Amy Billone take it away.
Thank you so much for your introduction, Igor. It's a pleasure to talk to you today. One of the reasons I plunged into asynchronous teaching is because I had such an incredible time with synchronous teaching, sort of the best evaluations I felt like I'd ever had in one class of children's literature 339. And right at that point, I decided to be a part of the interdisciplinary program and to design a class that I didn't even know was going to be asynchronous at that point. But I had the most amazing mentors, the most amazing Jumpstart team imaginable, and they helped me to put together an asynchronous class. And these evaluations I've gotten for these 8 asynchronous classes I've taught this past year have probably been the best I've ever had in my life, which I thought was going to be impossible. So I would love to share with you some of the strategies I've used for just community and engagement and just a lot of the terms students use when they're talking about what they like so much about the classes and their evaluation. So let me attempt to share my screen. And then let's see, I think, try it like this. Right, that wasn't right. Let's see if this works. Do you see the PowerPoint now, Igor? Okay, great. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to blow up the PowerPoint, and so that will mean I can't see the chat, but I will limit myself to 30 minutes of talking and then to keep putting your questions in the chat, and I will get to all of them as soon as I'm done talking. So I'd love to talk to you again about community and engagement in asynchronous classes, how to increase both. I feel like in my experiences, the types of classes I've taught, on the bottom of the screen, you can see the asynchronous Jumpstart class. That's the IDP class, which is on the fairy tale that my Jumpstart team helped me to develop. I taught 2 sections of that a year ago in the summer, 2 sections of that this past summer, and I taught 1 semester-long section of that class in the spring. So that's this bottom class, which is English 480 on the fairy tale. And then on these top 2 classes I designed on my own, I taught them last fall, a year ago, Celebrity from Romanticism to the Present, which is 483, which is a senior seminar, meaning it has to train the students to write the best possible research papers that are then evaluated by our department and then eventually sent on to the state of Tennessee as examples of the best student writing in the university or in the English department in any case. So it's a very different type of class in that way. And then this other class I've taught since I got here, and I taught as a graduate student, I've taught it forever, 25 years I've been teaching English 339 from children's literature. I designed those 2 on my own, but I used what my Jumpstart team had helped me with for 480, and I kind of copied that model into these other classes and developed these other classes on my own. So I just love to talk to you about what I've discovered in my experience as a teacher, which is that the more my students seem happy or feel happy or are happy, the more they interact with one another. And the more they interact with one another, the happier they get. So I found that if I can just get them basically to be happy, they also say they're learning the most. So to me, I felt like this question of how to increase community and engagement in asynchronous classes, in order to answer that question, for me, I had to answer the question of how to increase happiness. I've learned so much today from other speakers, so I do think that a lot of this is about what comes naturally to you. This seems to be what comes naturally to me. So when I ask myself what happiness is, I came up with 10 keys to happiness. These are based on my experiences teaching and just also when I thought about myself and what makes me happy. So for me, I came up with this list of learning something, feeling listened to, feeling understood, sharing vulnerabilities, which I thought was very interesting in an earlier talk, was given as something students really like about professors, but sharing vulnerabilities, but feeling understood anyway, feeling special, feeling proud of work done, teaching others, that sensation that you're teaching what you know, sharing excitement with others, making other people happy, and then feeling loved in the end, like you're not alone, you're not isolated, you're not just in the middle of nowhere talking to no one or talking with no one listening. These are all the 10 traits that for me have made me happy and seem to make my students happy. So what I have done in my classes, all of my classes, my Jumpstart team helped me tremendously with this for my 480 class on the fairy tale. And I've done the same, used the same strategy for all of my classes throughout the semester, which is that students post videos, and the way my classes work is I do have my students post a graded welcome or introductory video about themselves. And I give them a set of questions they're supposed to answer that's graded. And then they also post video replies to those. Throughout the semester, every week, this is what they're doing. They're either posting written replies to my lectures that are posted all in advance weekly and to the readings every week. And then they're also making video replies to each other's written posts, or they're posting an abstract for their paper that they're going to write, and they're making video replies to each other, or they're posting drafts of their final paper and they're posting video replies to those, or they're posting trailers. I've used that strategy even in my senior seminar, helping them write research papers, just because I feel like students really like to be creative. This gives them a way. So throughout the semester, no matter what they're doing, they are always also making video replies to each other. This means that everything is public. Students read and watch everything everyone does, and then every week a student has to choose a different student from the week before, but sometimes they make replies to several students. And one of the key components to the way the video replies work is that the students have to compliment one another always in the video replies. That's not all they have to do, but it's part of the rubric, and I really stress this. I feel like this takes away any possible bad feeling, because there's just basically a sense of happiness that's happening. So I also think it's important for my classes, all of them, that I make really detailed and enthusiastic welcome videos, welcoming them to the class and telling them about me and telling them about my class. And I have a separate coursework video. And in these videos, I really outline how I want all of us together to just basically increase the level of community engagement as well as we possibly can. A lot of this, I feel like, often for me, I feel like if I state what I want to be the case to the students as true, they are much more likely to believe it is true. And so I keep saying over and over and over and over again throughout this semester, we are so lucky to be in this asynchronous class. We're transcending time, we're transcending space. This is the most magical experience of my life. I have never been happier than I am right now. Giving them so much reinforcement about how good the asynchronous environment is, it's suddenly, to me at least, that maybe for them starts to feel like it is that good. So I often in these videos, in my welcome video, this is just, I make these on Panopto, beginning of the class, but I transcribed a line from this, but just I use words that emphasize my own happiness. Like, I'm ecstatic to meet with you. Sort of the end of this is just, I'm delighted to meet you, and we're all of these great things we're going to be doing together. That this is the sort of the collaborative approach in this asynchronous class. I say in my welcome video to my 339 class on children's literature that I'm sure lifetime friendships will develop in here, and I say I'm sure they will. So it's almost like I state what I want to have happen over and over and over and over again throughout the semester. And then it seems like what I'm saying I want to have happen is happening. So I've said, I'm sure, I have no doubt that you're going to form lifetime friendships with one another. I hold up a happy birthday candles in my coursework video just to let them know that the coursework is designed to make them happy. A quote from the coursework video here, I do caption all of my own lectures and all of my weekly videos. Everything I do, I caption myself, in addition to the 85% that's already done for me. I make sure to try to do them. This site, there's a typo, just to say in this format. But I say, I really do feel like we can get to know each other basically in an incredibly close way in this format. Basically, I say we'll get to know each other even better. Sometimes I say we can get to know each other even better in an asynchronous format than we even can face-to-face. These extreme statements, almost hyperbolic statements of what I want to be the case in an impossible reality, I feel like then become the case or can become the case. I get all kinds of different majors in 339. I'm on children's and young adult literature right now, maybe because I've just told the students we'll also be talking about video games based on the last talk. I'm now getting students from all over the university. So I tell them in their coursework video and that in their welcome videos or introductory videos, I want them to talk about what their majors are, because I'm so excited that they have different majors, and this makes the class so much better because everyone knows something that someone else doesn't know. I tell them that I want to create a really positive, enthusiastic environment, which is the reason that I am requiring them, I say this in my coursework video, to compliment each student every week. In addition to expanding on the compliment, they also have to pose further questions that the students' work makes them think about. But I give reasons for why I want to do this, because I feel like this creates the environment where I'm the happiest. I have really careful, this again, my Jumpstart team helped me with this tremendously, my mentors, to design these. I mean, this was similar to what my 480 class is. This is my 339 class. However, I give them weekly overviews. So they have a real sense that every week looks like the week before. Everything is outlined in advance. So I think the students feel more secure because they always know what to look forward to. There's no anxiety about what's going to happen next. So I tell them, I feel like this might have been for this semester, but they have to post an introductory video, but they also have to post a written discussion post about the history of fairy tales and about Snow White, which are 2 lectures I give them right away. They have to talk about my lectures in the written post and the readings. And they also have to reply to another student's introductory post. These are all sort of 48 hours apart from one another. And I even put in parentheses here, be sure to give compliments in all of your video replies, meaning I don't want any video reply that doesn't say something complimentary in it. And then they also have to reply by video to another student's written post about the history of fairy tales and Snow White. That's all within the first week. And then we move on. I have found that the welcome videos, these introductory videos that the students make, have just been incredible for my classes. I have used them in all 10, actually now I've used them in 10 asynchronous classes. They are graded, they're mandatory, they're right away in the beginning. No one has ever expressed any problem with them. I think one reason for this is I really do stress, I make a sample video, I can show you some of in a minute for them. And I say that there are all these problems with my sample video, but I just left it that way because there are going to be problems with all of our videos. You might be outside, it might be really windy, you might be locked in a closet, you might be like, you may have roommates in the room, you have all kinds of things going on, and it doesn't matter what circumstance you're in, we just want to see you as you are. And so I think I show some of my own vulnerability by showing problems with my voice being too quiet. I explain my kids were probably asleep in the room next to me, that's why there are these imperfections, but that the imperfections don't matter. So I find the students are very comfortable just making the videos absolutely anywhere and everywhere. In these welcome videos for the children's literature class, I ask them, I say they should be no more than 5 minutes long. And I ask these questions like, who are you? What's your major and minor? Why are you interested in this class? What are you most interested in learning about? And I ask them what their favorite text or series we'll be discussing over the course of the semester is. And one reason I do this is because I tell them in the coursework video is that it would be really exciting if then another student in their video reply can say, oh, actually, that's also my favorite series too. Like it can help people to know in advance if they have favorites. And then they feel like they get to know each other really, really quickly in that way. And what other interests they have, what they do in their free time. They watch all the videos posted by all the students, and then they reply to one student with a video response where they have to, and I put in bold here, give positive feedback in the video. So what they're getting from the very beginning is they're saying, well, I like to cook, or I like to bake, or I love my dog, or I like, but I you know, they could say all kinds of things in these videos, but then they're getting positive reinforcement about the people that they are. They feel known, they feel seen. And I feel like this has just been a tremendous asset to the classes, that right from the beginning, they get to know each other. For me, I feel like grading things and giving it the video reply with a compliment component has really helped, because it means everyone is doing it. No one has had any problems with this yet. So this is 10 classes without a problem with it. So I think because they know they're being graded, there's a rubric, they know exactly what to do. They want to get to know each other, and they're excited. So again, that's gone very well for me in terms of creating this sort of community and engagement in the classes. This, my Jumpstart team, my mentors helped me with. We figured out a way to explain that there's nothing dangerous for them about posting videos, that there's a FERPA law that prevents anyone from taking these student videos and using them or showing them to anyone else without getting the student's permission. So we have that really clearly in all my classes. Again, my mentors helped me with this to tell them that it's best to caption their videos. My students have not done this yet. And I have not said anything to them about it yet, because for the moment I want them to be happy, but I definitely do it. I think having this here, that it's best practice to include captions for reasons of accessibility, does let the students know that this is something I'm looking out for, thinking about. In terms of their written posts and video replies, I've got pretty careful instructions for them about how they have to do them. For their, I guess the instructions for the example, the discussion post here, the number one is what they have to do in their post. I tell them to include YouTube clips. I tell them to include anything else they want, like they can include articles. They've been including incredible things. I mean, they've even been including YouTube clips of scenes from video games that have to do with Peter Pan that just blow my mind, or articles they found, or TikTok clips, just anything you can imagine they've been including with their posts. They like to include all these things because they're interested in them, and then they always get positive reinforcement from their classmates and from me about what they include. And then they make a video reply. For the video replies, I've specified here under number 2 that the video replies need to do 2 different things. They have to, 1, be warm, they have to compliment something, and 2, they have to be question oriented. I stress that the students can choose which student they reply to. So in a class of 30, if they're only replying to 1 student, they are replying to the student maybe that they're most interested in replying to. But I also make sure to stress that every student really does need to be replied to. So and I stress that. And then up on the upper right, the 3 dots there's a rubric there that they can see how I grade these. And this is also where SpeedGrader is for me, which is where I make my feedback. So students very, very often, in terms of happiness, like all of these traits I listed, being listened to, being understood, being, I don't know, feeling special, but everything I listed in my own sense of what happiness is, the students are often listing those in their evaluations under the video reply format, which they love about the classes. They generally say they didn't expect to like it, but it ended up being one of their favorite parts of the classes. And I think I know why. And also because no one wants to be all alone in front of a computer screen with no one seeing you or hearing you. And the other thing they mentioned is they really enjoy my feedback. So I just wanted to mention that I do this feedback through SpeedGrader, that this is an example of the top part of the rubric. We have a double rubric set up for the discussion posts and video replies. So for the discussion posts, they have to, it stresses here that they have to have the prerequisite 500 word count, they have to have follow-up questions, they have to talk about my lectures, and they also have to talk about the reading materials in order to get 10 points on that. And then the bottom part of this rubric is for the video replies. This example is from my celebrity class, From Romanticism to the Present. So it's on the first romantic woman poet sonneteer. But this is exactly the same for my other classes, that for the video reply, they have to be warm, they have to compliment something, but they also have to be question oriented. And then the feedback section I can get to through SpeedGrader, and this is where I write so many comments. I have had some time management problems because I have just been spending so many hours writing them, but I think the students that are seeing these comments feel really validated. I basically just pour everything out to them in terms of everything I'm interested in their posts, and I correct mistakes that they've made as well. I may give them a sample discussion post, including YouTube clips, because I think that that's something that they really like to do. And then I also have a sample video reply to myself, where I was once asked if I could play the video reply and worried about technological problems. This time I just transcribed it, but it's not to have to read all of it. I try to make this in the tone of voice that a student would speak. What's important here is that I've sort of put in bold here, is that I begin this video reply to myself by saying, I just wanted to say that I totally agreed with what you said. So instead of, I'm not sure if I agree or not, or I don't really like what you said, or I don't know what I think, and I maybe think something different, I just go all the way with I totally agreed. Then at maybe middle of this slide, you can see, I think what you said is just exactly right. And so what I'm doing here is I'm repeating in different words what I said in my own written post. And then in the slide, let's see, in the next slide, this is where it's ending. Sorry, I think probably the slide just above, I also talked about other things that the post made me think about, which included Gilbert and Goodbar's The Mad Woman in the Attic, a feminist text where Snow White will turn into the evil queen. And then I relate this back to the Anne Sexton poem Cinderella, which I have assigned for them, just to kind of bring everything together. This entire post is sort of set up to relate Snow White, with which we begin the children's lit class, to Twilight, which is one of the last things we do, and to show how the two are related. So it's kind of giving an overview. In terms of learning something new, these are these 10 qualities I came up with in terms of what makes me happy, what makes the students happy. I think my students are learning, they're commenting that they're learning from the lectures and the reading, from the interactive posts and video replies, from my feedback. They feel listened to. This has to do with the community that they build up with each other. So their peers and their video replies, they feel really unified in this and together, excited, happy. And also by me and my feedback, my weekly videos, they feel understood. This is again, the supportive video replies. I also do have this clear, regular organization of the class that's all set up in advance. So I think the students feel understood in that way, that they understand that I understand that they may need to work ahead, or I think it gives them more security to have everything in advance. I have sharing vulnerabilities down here too, because I definitely try to do that in my lecture videos, where I make statements where I say, this is one good example is just with Peter Pan, which is a text that I wrote the introduction and notes for the Barnes & Noble Classics edition in 2005. I wrote about it. I used the cover image from Peter Pan in my book on children's literature with Routledge in 2016. It's a real passion of mine. So at the end of that lecture, I say that even in spite of everything, I understood it as being this delightful text when I was a child, and now I understand Peter Pan as being a tragic boy, and I don't understand how I could have two completely conflicting interpretations of the same text, and I'm still so obsessed with it. I'm wondering if you could help me to answer these questions that I still can't answer about Peter Pan. I try to express vulnerabilities where I can in my lectures, and the students I find really are open about their own vulnerabilities because they're getting support from one another. You're not worried about being criticized or being torn to shreds by saying something that you're vulnerable about, and instead it's actually a way of being closer to one another. So this is just how they may share their own vulnerabilities, and how I do, and how I think this makes all of the students closer to one another, and possibly closer to me, is that I'm sharing my own insecurities, confusions. I share questions I have about the nature of happiness, which is sort of what this video is based on. I ask that question over and over again in my lecture videos. What is happiness in this story, in this work? How are we supposed to achieve it? I don't understand the answer myself, just to give them in some ways more freedom to feel that they can talk without being judged, and to feel like everything they say has incredible value. They feel special. I use this image of a light because I feel like students don't want to feel invisible. And in an asynchronous class, it's really easy to feel like no one sees you and no one knows you, and you might as well just be in the dark. And so I think that the students feel special in the class because, again, to keep repeating the video replies, I feel like these supportive comments by their peers that are always changing. So they're not getting the same student every week writing to them. They're getting changing students every week, making videos to them, happy, supportive videos, makes them feel really validated. And then I always give them this extensive feedback, which highlights what I find interesting about their work, and also questions their work made me think about. I feel they would feel proud of their work done well. They often say they've worked harder in my classes than they have in any of their other classes. And one of the reasons for this is because they know that their work will be seen. It will be read, it will be appreciated, that they know I'll read it really carefully. They know I'll give them all this feedback. They know their other students are so excited. And so this makes them work even harder. So I think this is how they feel proud. I give them a chance to teach others, because I find in my classes, students always know something that someone else doesn't know. So I really encourage them to be open with whatever they know that others don't. And they get really excited sharing their knowledge, for example, of this video game or whatever they know that someone doesn't know. It's just so vast. And so I also make sure to play the role of student as much as I play the role of teacher in my classes, where I'm really, really, really interested in learning from them. And I make that very, very clear. And then they share their excitement with each other. Again, it's, and I think in a way it's because everything in this class is public. Their final project, it's extra credit if they make it public, but many of them do, because at that point they know they'll also get extra credit for making a supportive video reply to another student's project. So, but the rest of the class is all entirely public. And making people happy, that's that feeling of complimenting someone. So they're not just getting a compliment, they're also giving a compliment. I feel like in my case, when I made my lecture videos, I had to keep remaking them because I found that whatever energy level or happiness level I thought I was radiating when I was really happy just didn't come across in the videos. So what's interesting to me when I watch the students reply videos to each other is their smiles actually seem completely real. They don't seem fake at all. They seem like they genuinely are extremely happy and excited. And I think that's amazing. Like, I wish I could look like that. Like, to me, it requires a lot of energy in just these lecture videos where don't know who I'm talking to seem, I feel like it's like a 20% higher degree of happiness than I do in real life. And I just feel like they like to feel loved. They like to feel like they're not alone in the world. And so I know this sounds silly, but I feel like the students, what I feel is the students are learning the most and they're working the hardest because the more they do, the more positive feedback they get and the more excitement they have together, the more community they have with one another, the closer the friendships form between them. And so I feel like, again, all of this, it makes them feel loved and appreciated and valued. And so, I mean, just to kind of very quickly, I have 7 minutes and 22 seconds left for 30 minutes. These are just how I set up my children's OLAP class. I've just in terms of focus questions, the lectures with images. Some of these, those past two were designed by Danny, brilliant designer here, helped me with the Jumpstart team. And then for the reading, I want to show you this because I make my reading entirely free to the students. So this is an example of reading for the children's lit class. This may double with the fairy tale class as well. This is quite similar, where we have all the different links for what they read, and I got permission from D.L. Ashleman, who published an archive online of all these fairy tales. I got permission, even though it's free online technically, I got his written permission to use his archive in the classes. The students often say how happy they are that all this time was taken for them, and all they have to do is click these links, and they don't have to buy any text if they don't want to. So I think in terms of learning new things, which is one of the points of happiness, I feel like one of the ways they feel they're learning things is from these texts. I've got fantastic news for us because I had a student in English 480 who translated the Chinese version of Cinderella, and I can click to link to it. She talks to the students about who she is, and they're very excited about that. I think in the fairy tale class, I make them read possibly more than one of these stories Ashland provides, but they read one of these stories, but there are all these links. So this is just an example of how the lectures look with the focus questions and all of that, all provided in advance to get them started in terms of thinking about how to make those discussion posts and then how to make their video replies to one another. I think there's something very interactive about Panopto. So I have a dual monitor at home, but now I know there's a way you can do this away from home, since there's so many different ways of viewing the screen. In terms of what students have commented about in their evaluations, I just want to stress 2 points today. One is, again, these video reply discussion posts that come up again and again in their comments, their positive comments in the evaluations. And the other one I'll get to in a minute is just the feedback. So they love the interactive and video discussion posts. They found class rewarding. They love seeing what others were saying. They love getting to read other people's experience. They felt so connected. They felt it was interactive. They thought that the discussion aspect, as well as the video responses, both of them, they were able to interact with peers. It's hard to do that in an online class, but this actually works. And the biggest struggle of an online class is to feel so connected to both to me and to the other students, but they actually felt this way in the class. They often say that even at the end, they say they didn't think the video replies were going to work at all. They didn't like them, but in the end, they found it so much more enjoyable than they thought because they got exposure to other people's work and ideas. They felt connected to me, the class, and the other students. And I just think this is an interesting quote from the evaluation because it says that the class works so well, but it really has nothing to do with me at all. It works so well because of this video response format, which that might seem overwhelming at first, but in the end, it's that gives the students the ability to discover a community of support. And then I think it's interesting the student uses the word confident twice, that this community of support and encouragement with these video replies makes everyone feel like confident enough that they can thrive confidently because they're all sort of there for one another. And I think otherwise, the students could collaborate, I guess is this last point. And just to go to the feedback comment that they find it extensive, that in depth, that's just how much I've written since I've done so much. I've really worked hard on the feedback. But I feel like the reason I have is because I feel like it's just completing the circle. The students I feel like it's creating the community. The students are already creating with one another through these video replies. I'm circling back with the amount of feedback I give them. So I think it's interesting they use words like kindness, but they think it's kind that I'm spending so much time giving them this feedback that they actually read and that I respond to their work. And they've never had a professor write this much to them. So I think this makes them feel special that I take this amount of time. Basically, I'll just, again, speed through these, but I also make weekly videos just to kind of check in with them about the work for the past week that they've done. And I hold up props. I'm very accessible through Zoom. I meet whenever I want. They want to meet me, and I email them all the time. They definitely email every hour of the day and night. And I have on the syllabus, I will get back to them within 24 hours, and I always do. Every day of the week, 7 days a week, because it's asynchronous and I'm not seeing them. So this is the best way I have to kind of feel available to them. So this one says she answered emails and graded very quickly, but they mentioned the emails as well. So my advice is this: I know everyone says things very, very differently based on your personality, but for me, I found if you can sort of increase your own level of happiness, sort of envision the outcome that you want to achieve, the best possible outcome imaginable in an asynchronous class, imagine what that would look like, then just keep stating it over and over and over and over again through all your lecture videos that it's already happening, that it's happening right now. Students will believe you that it is happening and will make that impossible reality come true. Show yourselves as well. I feel like my vulnerabilities, my personality that I show them, they feel that that's genuine, and it encourages them to show more of themselves and become closer to one another. And as a result, community and engagement will follow. Thank you. I will stop the share. I'm wondering if there are any questions that anyone has.
There's a question in the chat from William.
Is this is the question down here? I think I'll read it out loud. Is it the question I struggle with or worry my students are just plowing through the modules? What is the balance between putting all content online at once versus spreading out over time? I've always put all content online in the beginning, and I have found that it's always worked the best for me to do it this way. I think it's just because with my Jumpstart team, my mentors, we worked so hard to create this summer class of this IDP class 480 for the summer over a year ago. We had to have the whole class up because it was a summer class. It happened so fast, it really had to be up. And then I've just done everything like that since. But students never complain about it. In fact, they very, very frequently say on their evaluations that it was one of their favorite aspects of the class, that I put everything up for them, that it respected their time, that I don't know. I also find I tend to teach chronologically. So in my Celebrity from Romanticism to the Present, it goes very, very chronological. A lot is on Romanticism, but it goes forward in time. And so there's a way in which they can't really plow through the modules without kind of speeding through history. I haven't had any problem with it. I don't know if maybe different subjects would have more trouble with it, but in my case, students are very grateful for it. And I've heard nothing but positive comment. No one has ever said, I really wish she hadn't put the entire class online. That was the only thing I didn't like. The students instead say over and over and over again how glad they are that I put everything online, because it made it so, wow, I guess my timer was not supposed to make sound, and I literally turned the sound off, I promise. That was not supposed to happen. Sorry. Basically the students say instead that it gave them respect. They felt respected. They say that I'm giving them respect because I'm showing them that I understand how busy their lives are, how difficult their lives are, and I'm giving them everything in advance. And that's a sign of respect to them, because it allows them to do the work at whatever pace they want. And it hasn't, I think because of the video replies happening in these 48-hour windows, that there is still a sense of always being in the moment, even though things are posted in advance. So that has not been a problem for me, at least. It's actually only been a good thing. It's really hard to get everything up in advance, but I think what Sally's point is really interesting. How do you set it up so that students remember to return to the video discussions if they are the first to post? If they're the first to post, like for every unit, for example, if a student posts their written post, how do they remember to go back and make a video reply to someone else? Is that the question, Sally? I don't know if Sally's here, muted
Yes.
or
Yes.
yeah. Well, the way that it's done is that every single week, everything is done. You may have seen this already, but everything is done with a double rubric. So they get a grade for every unit, and they're every week it's the same exact rubric. It looks identical, and it's always 10 points is the top part. That's for their written post, and 5 points is for their video reply. If they ever forget a video reply, and then sometimes they do, I'm just really careful to put in the comments. I don't give them full credit. I give them a 0 for the video reply, but I write in the comments to them. I'm very generous. I write in the comments, it looks like you forgot to put a video reply up. Please go back and do so. I'll be sure to give you credit. I'm generous in that way. There have also been a lot of technical problems that I don't know. I mean, they've used this semester every method. Again, my mentor set up every possible method for them and showed them how, and I've got that for each class of how to make a video reply through Panopto, through Canvas Studio, through, I mean, I can't even list the number of ways that they can do it. Some students do it through YouTube. Some are using Flipgrid videos in reply. There's a really wide range of ways that they are making video replies. It's whatever's easiest for them, but there are still sometimes that the videos don't upload, and I'm extremely apologetic and nice to them about that, because that is not their fault. I mean, that may just be my fault for not being more technically together, but it may also be just a fault of technology in general. Like, things are always changing. So I do have a due date. It's very clear, and I make it very, very clear. And I mean, if it just says late to them on their rubric, if they don't turn it in on time, it's clearly posted that the due dates for the video replies are generally, they're always 48 hours after the written post. Occasionally I give them a longer time. For example, if they're looking at drafts, I may give them a week to make the video reply, or abstracts, or the trailers they make, I may give them a week to make the video reply. But for all of the, otherwise for all of the written posts and video replies, it's a 48-hour window. There's a calendar that, again, my mentors help me with, and I've used this every semester. They help me for the summer, but I give them a calendar that's sort of separate from what they have going on technically, because the calendar shows when the video replies are due, whereas I think otherwise the video replies don't show up as being due, because maybe it's part of a double rubric, whereas the calendar shows where everything is due, and I keep reminding them to look at the calendar, or I put in the weekly overviews of when everything is due, just to be sure the video replies are happening. But often they really are happening, because I think the students like receiving them so much that they're always looking to see what someone said about their post, and that might make them remember more they need to make one for someone else. I don't know, I can see some of these mentors in their audience here. I saw Shinhui's here, and it was incredible. I owe someone, I mean, honestly, without these mentors, I don't think I ever could have designed an asynchronous class at all. So I think what the mentors helped me to do was just to figure out what it is about me that was working. I taught 480 for the first time synchronously the spring of 2021, and we recorded all those classes, and my mentors Irina Loboda and Shinhui watched all of my recorded classes and then tried to figure out what I was doing in the recorded classes that were happening live synchronously, and how we could translate that into an asynchronous format. And that's how we came up with this particular model. In fact, it was one of my students suggested to me. She's like, why don't you just have us make videos to each other? We want to do that. So, it really, without their help, this never could have happened. But I want to, again, encourage everyone, simply because this has worked for me, to imagine the impossible. I thought this would be impossible. And then just to keep telling the students over and over and over again that the impossible is happening. And I'm so excited that it is. And look at what we're doing. And this is amazing. And then they're like, wow, but maybe they say similar things occasionally in their evaluations, where they're really happy. I just believe in raising happiness levels. You actually can do something that might otherwise feel impossible.
There's another question from Sally.
Thank you so much, Sally. Yeah, I said Irina. Yes. Another question from Sally. How many days a week are tasks due? Once, twice? Well, I guess a typical week in these classes will be, they watch my lecture for the week, they do the readings for the week, they write their discussion post for the week, and then in 48 hours, they post a video reply to another student. So a typical week is they watch my lecture, do the reading, write their post, and make a video reply to another student. It's possible to get ahead because everything is posted in advance, but it's not that easy to get ahead when other students aren't posting the classes don't really tend to get that far ahead. I've noticed if they are getting ahead of their own research and things like that, they tend to hold back so that everyone does sort of keep together. I think this might help to answer that question before about the students plowing through the modules. I found that my students are more sensitive to kind of keeping together with one another, which I'm not quite sure why that is. But that everyone is sort of together on the same page with every unit and replying to each other at the same time. So. Yes, so yes, and Danny was phenomenal. I had phenomenal help. Again, I don't know what to say except they helped me. I didn't think I'd be able to do it, and I even said I couldn't make the class asynchronous. I couldn't make the IDP class asynchronous, but it has to be asynchronous because ultimately it will detach from UT's campus and it will be for students all over the world who can't come back here, and they'll be in all different time zones. So there's no other way to do this but asynchronously. So because I thought it would be impossible, I think that's one of the reasons I've been so happy with these. Now it's up to 10 classes because I feel like this was something that I, of all people, would never have been able to do because it's not my personality, I didn't think. But I guess I just want to say that if you're worried about asynchronous, if you haven't done it before, if you have, that it has gone better than even my synchronous classes and my face-to-face classes. I don't know why. They like my lectures more than they used to. They just they're responding better than they have in the past. So that's just a sign that technology is just capable of anything. I'm ecstatic. I keep telling my students that too. So are there any other questions that you have? It looks like it was 1:40. I don't know if anyone has anything else I can answer at all about the structure of these classes, because like I said, 483, the senior seminar has to teach them how to write a research paper exclusively. So that doesn't have any creative component. And I have students come to all my classes. The same students will come from one class to the other. They'll come to all 3 classes. So they often come to 483 because they think there will be a creative component. And it's partly for that reason that I added the trailer assignment in the midterm, where they make a trailer about anything they want, but then they have to make an accompanying video of their face telling the class how this trailer of a TV show or a documentary or a movie would translate into an academic paper. And they've had so much fun with those. They love those. They're wonderful. And then they make video replies to each other about those. So that's how I kind of brought the creative into the analytical writing class. I also have them read each other's abstracts and each other's drafts and comment on them in addition to me. So I force it to be public. I feel like making things public in a way makes people less afraid. Because everyone feels like they're, in a way, it just makes everything more collaborative. Any other questions at all? Any questions, Igor? Anything I haven't gone over?
I think you've gone over everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think something interesting is that, I mean, based on all the talks today, it's that there are various ways of engaging students, because I'm not using gamification at all, although I do let them talk about video games if they want in their posts, but I'm not using them at all. I don't know how to do any of that. So I'm coming at happiness from a different angle, but it's working. It's working. It means there are many different ways to make happiness happen and community and engagement happen. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here.
Right. It appears there's no other question. Thank you, Amy, for the great presentation.